I don't know where else to go. So here I am. The one place where someone might know what's going on. The one place where someone might actually believe me. It all started with Marissa, my girlfriend of 2 years. We were on our way home from the local diner in California, the more expensive one down in the center of the town. I had lived in California my entire life. A small town it was. So it came as a surprise to me when I saw a new face in town. Someone wearing an attire that I had seen on the news. At first I had to think where I had seen that attire before, but then my mind went back to a recent press conference. The conference was for the AIO, and it contained a request for new people. I believe that was their reasoning for broadcasting it to the entire nation. The man approached me with a look of intent and curiosity in his eyes.
Hello there, sir. May I ask you a couple of questions?
Naturally, I didn't want to turn away someone of this particular organization. Go ahead. What do you need from me? The man took out a clipboard and adjusted his glasses before speaking again.
Are you aware of our organization, the AIO?
Of course, the Alternate Investigation Organization. It was always a mouthful for me.
Yes, it is quite long. Anyways, I'm sure you've seen the recent press conference hosted last Friday.
I hadn't actually watched it myself, but Marissa had been watching it all day. She, like many, was interested in the research of the AIO. I've heard the call to action. You're looking for new volunteers, right? The man nodded and proceeded to hand me a flyer containing more information about their company. The flyer advertised their advancements in cancer research, especially their ever-famous treatment that had helped reduce death by cancer over 76%. On the back of it read about their headquarters based out in Texas, in their small but ever-growing town of Dallas. The AIO had been recruiting volunteers for a reason. They needed more people to test their studies on. I couldn't care less what happened in the daily life of the AIO, but what they bring to the world has me interested.
That we are. I'm here looking for some potential signers, so we can get our research moving.
Well, what brings you to our small town of California to search for people?
The father actually requested we visit here as he spent 4 years of his life here.
Oh, the father? The father was the AIO's founder. He'd always been called as such. However, his real name was truly unknown to everyone outside of those in his inner circle. I think this is what had Marissa so enticed. For an organization so well known, they have a lot of mystery.
Yup. Hey, speaking of volunteers, care to sign?
The man pushed forward his clipboard and looked at me like a puppy hoping to receive a treat. I pondered signing it for a moment before settling on a decision. No thank you for the moment, I need to think on it. The man's demeanor changed from optimistic to disappointment in only a second. He was clearly annoyed with his progress. He attempted to hide a sigh before speaking again.
Well, if you ever feel up to it, please contact our number. It's on the flyer.
The man wandered off, asking more people from the diner for answers. I had almost forgotten Marissa was watching me intently the entire time I had been speaking to the worker, and I knew exactly what was coming next.
Hunter, why in the world didn't you sign up?
I'm sorry, Riz. I just wasn't feeling up to signing something like that today. I still have to go to work tomorrow, you know.
Oh, come on. Working for Travian again?
You keep mispronouncing his name.
Hey, don't change the subject, mister. Think of all you could see when you're inside.
I knew exactly what she was going to mention next. Something along the lines of meeting the father and hoping to see him.
Come on, Hun. You could maybe meet the father while you're there. I mean, what if we went together too? Don't you see how awesome of a vacation that would be?
It's the middle of spring, Marissa. We can't vacation at this time of the year. I had always felt my job as a programmer fairly important to me. Marissa always felt it was less serious and more like I was just playing games for a living.
Oh, please. We could just go and be a volunteer for the weekend. We'd get to see a full tour and everything.
I decided I would have to draw the line in the sand. Marissa, I'm not going to that place. You know I'm not too big on them anyways. Marissa paused for a moment, realizing what I had meant when I said that. Her previously excitable face began to fall slowly to a more of a comforting frown. I'm sorry, Hunter, I didn't. It's not a big deal, Rissa. Let's just go home. Later that night, we had returned home and Marissa had begun to prepare for bed. As usual, I prepped myself to work through the night, looking for every small detail in my code and praying not to find an error. Good night, Hunter. I'm sorry if I brought up some bad memories, Marissa said softly. I couldn't even be upset with her. She was the sweetest, most caring, even if a bit excitable girl I have ever met. She pulled on her short brown hair and then turned slowly as she headed off to bed. I stared down at her back as she walked towards our bedroom. The memory of that night came back, the night when my father had left. I'm not comfortable discussing more, not after what he did to my mum. I can only add that my dad worked for the AIO. I had spent years trying to separate it from my life, and that's why I couldn't care less whatever happens in their lives or daily work. I couldn't care less about helping them or being a volunteer. I would rather try to block away those memories by working on my mundane and peacefully quiet job. I had Marissa back in those days, when things weren't nearly as collectively calm as they were then. I sat working through the night on my code, as predicted. The TV flashed through whatever late-night news channel Marissa had left on, echoing things about the recent rise in adoption centers in America and whatever else was on TV. My mind slipped into its exhausted state and I fell asleep at my desk, waking up at 4 a.m. to Marissa comforting me. I took only a moment to examine the screen and realized that at some point in my sleepless stupor, I had opened a Google document. I had begun writing out some thoughts I must have had during the night. I talked about my brother, my father, and my desire to find him and make him pay. I talked about making Marissa happy, my job, and how tired I was of living like this. Marissa's soft arms wrapped around my back as she spoke into my ear.
Hunter, you want to volunteer, don't you?
She was right. I wanted more than anything to track down my father, and joining the AIO was my best way to do so. The only way I could find my father was by asking someone in the AIO. I wanted to know what happened to Travis. I wanted to know why my mother had to die. What twisted experiment needed to take my mother away from me when I was only 7? That's why I wanted to find my father. I do.
Hunter, I hope you don't think I 100% want you to do this. I'd rather you be happy with what...
No, I'm signing up.
Wait, Hunter, are you sure about this?
Go get me the flyer, would you? Marissa didn't waste a second grabbing the flyer for me, watching as I dialed the number on the back. I talked with the front desk worker for 20 minutes, scheduling the meeting I needed to have. I wouldn't have any other opportunity to find my father if I didn't sign now. So I signed on as a volunteer.
I'm coming too.
I stared at Marissa blankly. She already knew what I was going to say.
Hunter, please, let me help you.
No, Marissa, I'm not bringing you into this.
But
No, Marissa. She stared at me before turning away and heading back to her room, where she closed the door in frustration. I bought a plane ticket down to Texas. I would leave on the next flight midday. I chose to pack my bags after Marissa headed to work. She gave a tired expression before slowly closing the door behind her. I wanted to tell her I loved her, and I nearly ran to the door to say so, but I decided against it. I couldn't be sure why. My flight came and went, and I arrived in Coppell, calling tickets straight to Dallas. At this point, it was at least 7 p.m. and the headquarters would be closed at 9. In the back of the taxi, I checked my phone to see if Marissa had possibly texted me. Not even a single notification. It's clear I had upset her by not letting her come. But as she always does, she would know I did it to protect her. I had made it just in time to the headquarters, checking into the building to be escorted straight to my room for the night. I sat in the hotel-like room, admiring the Texas memorabilia scattered across the room. Texas really was massive, spanning such a huge size. It took up at least a fourth of the lower half of America after all. My silence was disrupted when a man with a tall physique came through the door. For a moment, my hands shook. I had a flashback to that night again.
Hello, Mr. Hunter, was it?
Yes, that's me. I noticed a lack of professionalism for a company that had marketed themselves almost overly professional.
Well, alright. Can I get you to sign these papers? It's just authentication and such.
Of course, I said, reading the papers carefully. I noticed the category that said, in case of death, and how it would not be the AIO's fault in case an accident occurs on their grounds. Knowing that I couldn't get anywhere without signing these papers, I signed off.
Alright, thank you so much. Your first testing will be at 3 a.m. Here soon, the health department will pay you a visit so you can get checked out.
And that the health department did, checking all my vitals, preparing me for whatever tests they had in store. Just before the nurses left, I had to ask one final question. Do you know who I can talk to about previous workers? The nurses looked at me puzzled, unsure of what to say. Realizing I wouldn't get a proper answer, I quickly retracted my statement and sent them on their way. I sat for a moment, wondering what kind of test they had in store for me. Thinking about Marissa, those old, more wild days, my father. I wish I knew what they had in store for me now, as I sit where I am, now writing this. I slept for several hours until I was awoken at 2:35 a.m., where I was commanded to come and help participate in a large experiment. I was offered no food, no moment to settle myself. All I grabbed was my phone and headed towards the testing room. The men guided me to the room, took me into a smaller back room where a machine shrouded in weird symbols on the floor stood. For a moment, I became concerned of what sort of test this was. I wanted to see Marissa.
All right, Hunter, for your safety, we'll need to restrain your movements once inside the circle.
What had the AIO been doing here? What was happening? This isn't what I was looking for. 5 workers cuffed my feet and my arms together and moved me inside the chamber where they began to link me in. The men signaled a group of scientists sitting in an upper booth looking down at me. I wanted to ask what sort of test it was and to have a moment to message Marissa before they began. However, by that point, it was already too late. They quickly took my phone from my pocket just as a message popped up from Marissa. I opened my mouth to ask them what was going to happen, but no sound came out. This isn't the first time I was restrained like this. It left me panicking in my mind yet again. One more message blared through the intercom, and I picked up on one last message.
Beginning alternate dimension test number 2. Please clear into the safety rooms now.
My mind raced. An alternate dimension test? What sort of crazy experiment were they really doing here? And why was I the second one? Why was I the one person selected to do this? What was happening? Why couldn't I scream? I just wanted to see Marissa's pale green eyes again. A bright red warning light shined into the room above a siren as it blared even through the circle. The capsule was locked and contained, but the circle around it seemed less official and more like a child had drawn with red chalk. What did it mean? I didn't have time to see anymore, especially when the first explosion started. The capsule next to me burst into chemical fire. The bright orange glow bursted into the room. My body began to feel warmer and exhausted by the second. What was happening? My mind kept slipping. Why was this happening? Why? I passed out after one more explosion rang out, this time destroying the whole room. The cold floor washed over my body, rough and rigid, but I still wanted to stay there.
Hey you, what are you doing there?
Was I alive?
Oh great, another druggie.
What was he talking about? Who was he?
Come on, get up.
A man said, lifting me to face the bright blue sky. Where was I? This wasn't the lab.
Oh, so you're awake.
The man in the strange vest said. The man spoke into a radio and called back to the station. It didn't take long for me to realize this was a Dallas Police Department member. But why did he have such a strange vest on? The Dallas PD always has a white uniform.
Hey, are you alright, sir?
I could finally speak. I'm okay. Where am I?
You don't know where you are?
No, I said through a coughing fit.
You're in Dallas, Texas. Is there anything I can do for you?
If I was still in Dallas, where did all these skyscrapers come from?
Young man, is there anything I can do for you?
Who are you?
I'm Officer Marshall. Pleasure to meet you. Did you hit your head?
Where was I? What happened to the lab? How was I here?
Hey son, I'm going to run you down to the station with me. Just to get you checked out. You don't look so hot.
The station? I said, exhausted and confused.
Yes. Hey son, are you alright? Hey, hang on!
I passed out yet again. I woke to the sound of a heartbeat monitor. It progresses as I became more clearly conscious. My body trembled with fear. Had that all somehow been in a dream? My sentience became more clear and aware as I took in the pure white room around me and the gown I lay in. Not long after my awakening, a nurse ran into the room.
Oh goodness, you're finally awake.
What?
You've been out for 3 days after an officer found you lying about on the streets of Dallas.
My mind sputtered in conjunction, stopping me from questioning any further. The nurse checked my vitals and spent around 15 minutes explaining to me my health and asking me questions. She asked about my family and who I was, why they couldn't find anything on file for me, and questions about insurance. She seemed to nod softly to all my responses until I had one more thing to ask. Where's Marissa?
Who?
Marissa, my girlfriend.
I'm sorry, like I said, we don't have anything on file for you somehow. Really strange. So we didn't know who to contact.
I had to call her. May I use a phone?
Oh, sure.
The nurse said, handing me a phone with a case that stunned me. Coca-Cola?
Oh yeah, I like their stuff.
The nurse said. That couldn't make sense. Coca-Cola was retired in the 50s, after their shipments were taken upon by some old rumor I barely remember learning about through my mother when I was a child. How could it be around in 2019? Thank you, I muttered, dialing Marissa's number. A wave of terror fell over me at the sound. I know I typed the number in correctly, but my eyes desperately searched for any possible error in the number. To no avail.
Hey, this is Eric here. Sorry I couldn't be at the phone for now. Please leave a message, and I promise I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The nurse looked at me for a moment, confused at my expression.
Everything all right?
I lied to her. I'm fine, thank you. When do you think I'll be getting out?
Well, all your vitals seem healthy, so hopefully by this afternoon. We'll bring you up some breakfast.
I thanked the nurse and sat alone in the room. Before me, out the window, stood an active and busy road. People commuting to work and wherever they had to be at 9. I was left with a thought. Why hadn't Marissa's number been hers? Why did the nurse have a Coca-Cola iPhone case? My eyes scanned the room, searching for some kind of answer on the wall, before they settled on a picture advertising washing your hands to avoid the flu. The advert mentioned some sort of peasant in flu in America, how washing your hands could help that. My eyes fell on the picture of America. Why was Texas so small now? What was Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana? Where's California so massive? What was happening? Why in the world don't I understand this? 9 hours later, and here I am, writing this post in some nearby town, hoping someone understands. I don't know what to do or think. I'm sure all of you have several questions for me, and I'm sorry for any grammatical errors as I'm currently a bit hysterical. I just want to see Marissa again. I want to go home. The thing that sends shivers down my spine now is the fact that I googled the AIO and all I found was some set of no sleep posts, and that's why I'm here. That's why I selected this place to come with my questions. I'm so confused. Am I really alive? I hope what I said made some sense. I just don't know what to do. Once again, I apologize if I seem a bit insane here, but I just want answers so badly. For the love of God, I just want to see Marissa again. I have to ask again, why isn't the AIO known here? And who in the heck is Jacob?